Well, since I took a look at the awesome and underrated Captain America Super Soldier, I decided to check out some of the other games that were tie-ins to the MCU. And right after Captain America, my favorite Avenger is definitely Thor.
Cross the rainbow bridge of Asgard, where the booming heavens roar. You'll behold in breathless wonder the God of thunder, mighty Thor.
1960s Marvel is so dated. But anyway, Thor, God of Thunder, Sega, comics. Yes, let's do it. Wow, this is like the most normal intro I've ever had on my show. It's kind of weird, actually. That duck is worthy of Mjolnir! What?! Thor! Trademark. God of Thunder. I've heard many things about this game, primarily that it sucks. Like, I've heard it's one of the worst movie tie-in games ever made. But I'm an adventurous person, and I like to think for myself. I don't think I have to explain who Thor, trademark, is in the Marvel Universe. God of Thunder wields the mightiest of bunking tools, super strong, flies, yada yada yada, you know who he is. And I'm guessing you've seen the movie as well, so I won't elaborate too much on the who's, how's, and whys of everything. I mean, when Thor appears as a main character in the highest-grossing film of all time, I'm just gonna go on a limb and assume everyone watching this knows a little something about him as a character. So let's dive on into this. Thor, trademark, God of Thunder begins with frost giants invading Asgard. Thor, Loki, and Sif are training in the courtyard when they get jumped. Loki pieces out, and Sif gets frosted. So now we have the first moments of gameplay, and it demonstrates the game's combat system. It's played in a third-person action style with an emphasis on combos and special moves. Huh. This is God of War with Thor, isn't it? Yes, it is. More like God of Thor, am I right? Is that redundant? Like, I know it's not technically redundant, but, you know, it feels redundant. Now, I'm not too critical on God of War clones. In fact, some of my favorite games of all time are God of War clones. Games like Darksiders and Conan come to mind. So, I'm gonna give this game a chance. The combat, well, it works alright. It's nothing special, but the hit detection is fine with Thor's hammer. It's fun throwing it around, and there's a lot of variety in the combos. Now the downside is that this is all you'll be doing. And I mean it when I say this. Most of the time you'll be doing the same combos over and over and over again. Armor breaker combo, fast combo, QTE kill, and maybe a grab attack sometime. Now the game does try to diversify this by giving Thor control over lightning, thunder, and wind attacks, which do have several uses when the game is just throwing enemies left and right at you, so there's a little variety. Like, I was never really bored with the combat, even if it was very samey, and it never came across as too easy so that I can mash the square button over and over again for easy kills either. I'm being honest here, I actually found it to be too difficult at times, but that was against the bosses who were supposed to be hard. Very rarely do the enemies just kick your ass while you fumble around desperately trying to fend them off. It's honestly the right amount of difficulty on standard enemies, and it stays engaging and interesting regardless of how samey the combos are. I'll elaborate more as we go, but for what it is, it works. It's alright, you know? Like, I've played better, but I've also played a lot worse. For what it is, it's okay, you know? Like, it's serviceable. Thor, trademark, quickly dispatches all of the Jotuns, frees Sif, and then is off to save Asgard from the invaders. Nothing really of note happens, but I will say that it's cool bopping around Asgard like this. I mean, Asgard looked so cool in the movie, so being able to run around it, even as linear as it is, the scenery is well translated into the video game, so that's neat. After Thor, trademark, thwarts the invasion attempt by killing the boss, they're going to recycle several times in the game. The Jotun mortally wounds Sif, and she dies. You know, it's funny. Fandral was injured by literally the same attack in the movie, and he survived, but Sif, nah, Holmes, shit dead. This makes Thor, trademark, very mad. Okay, I should probably stop with the trademark thing because that'll get really annoying, but look at the title. It's Thor, trademark, God of Thunder. Now, I know that the comic and subsequent movie based on the comic version bears little in resemblance to the actual Norse mythology character, but isn't that kind of strange that a major studio can just slap a trademark on a deity that is still worshipped today? I mean, can you imagine if Image Comics put a trademark on Jesus Christ because he appeared in the Odyssey? That's real, by the way. He fights with Zeus. Enraged, Thor vows vengeance on the Jotuns and rushes off to Niflheim to kick some frosty butt. However, unbeknownst to Thor, Odin is actually working on reviving Sif with the Odin Force. And Loki gets a wise idea not to tell Thor, and shenanigans ensue. You see, Loki is more like his comic counterpart in the game than the movie version, where Loki is a scheming, almost Machiavellian villain with an arc where he inevitably redeems himself. Originally, Loki is nothing more than a trickster up to shenanigans and chutzpah. Not quite on the level as his original Norse mythology version, though, because if you know anything about Norse mythology, Loki is weird. Hey, Dad! Hey, son! Look at my new child! He is an 8-legged horse that I gave birth to! What a remarkable creature! I proclaim this to be the greatest horse in the world! Yeah, that happened. Dear DeviantArt, do not draw Tom Hiddleston giving birth to a horse. Like, have some decency for once in your life! Back on topic, Thor blasts through more Jotun, and here's where I have some issues. The platforming is awkward and bad. I don't know if it's intentional or my controller is messed up or something, but it feels like there's a delay when I press the jump button and when he actually jumps. And I could never really adapt to it because sometimes it feels like it works fine and he jumps when I want him to, but other times it just didn't click well. And honestly, the platforming isn't just shoddy, but it's also really contrived because Thor can fly. All of the platforming should be easy to circumvent just by using Thor's standard powers. Even sometimes, like in this section where he just uses them in a way that is just stupid. As you can see with the ice bridges, I have to fly up here on this platform and jump across these other platforms to get the collectible. So why can't he just fly up onto the platform with the collectible? Why does it have to be this particular one and then jump across these ones when they're all identical? And that's actually a core gameplay element. Thor throwing his hammer to get to certain locations, but only fixed locations in the game. However, there are so many instances where Thor should just be able to fly up and grab something without needing to do some kind of bullshit platforming or looking for tiny ledges to cling to, which in many ways are even more bullshitty. Why is he doing this? I'm not pressing buttons. He's just doing this. Thor, are you okay? Anyway, so I get to Ymir, the Lord of the Jotuns. After defeating his first form, Thor and Loki go to the Cave of Ages, where a secret weapon concealed by Odin awaits. After fighting with Ymir a second time, Thor opens the gate which was concealing a mechanical beast made from souls not sent to Valhalla called Mangog.
With the boiling hatred of a billion souls, we live again. By Odin's foul treachery, we were imprisoned. But now, to vengeance, to Asgard. Odin, we come for you.
What have I done?
And I gotta say, Mangog looks pretty badass in this game. The gold, the skull face, the horns, this is a really cool depiction of this character. I'm gonna get shit for saying this, and I mean, no disrespect to Jack Kirby. He's a comic book legend or so, you know, may he rest in peace. But have you seen Mangog's first appearance? Yeah. That was due for an update. Thor tells Loki to bring him back to Asgard so he can stop the monster he let loose because of his anger. I'll get back to this point in a minute, but Loki sends him to Vanaheim to keep him busy so that Loki can be the one to kill Mangog and get into the good graces of Odin so he can be king one day. Along the way, we get some encounters with Skraelings and fight with some trolls. I'll give this game one thing, it has plenty of enemy variety and appearance, like all the worlds in the game feel different from one another while also still feeling connected in some way. This level is kind of fun at times actually, but it's annoying with how many grenade launching enemies there are. You'll be here getting your combo game on when these stupid lizard dudes throw a grenade at you, so now you have to stop mid-attack and dodge out of the way. That's a pet peeve of mine in games like this. It's a hack and slash game. Why would you interrupt the hacking and slashing? Although I suppose in this case there's no slashing since he uses a hammer and... What would that make this? A smacking and bashing game? Yeah, I'm going with that. Now there is a cool part where you gotta commandeer a boat that's being pulled by a giant. You gotta protect him from Skraelings on their boats by throwing your hammer at them with a targeting mechanic. This is a lot of fun to do. Now allow me to make this not fun. You see, you can't just throw your hammer throughout the entire game with a targeting reticle. Oh no. You can only do it in certain parts where the game allows it. Like, I got excited when I got this ability in Valheim because I thought it was gonna be a game changer. I love throwing the shield in Captain America Super Soldier, okay? It's like the funnest mechanic in that entire game. And since, you know, Thor's always throwing his hammer in the comics and in the movies too, I thought that this would be the mode maker. Like, this little thing right here would make the game for me. And they screw it up! Well, when you can throw it, it is fun to do. I just wish it was something that you could do throughout the game instead of on-rails segments. It's just a thing that this game almost gets right. Now, what the game doesn't get right are some of the boss fights, and this fight is a perfect example of it because in no other fights does this perfectly encapsulate the problems I have with this game. Now, the minor enemies are fine, but bigger enemies like this guy are just ridiculous if you try to fight them straight up. I can never tell when I'm getting hit. He just swings his arms and I take damage. He can just flail in any general direction, and as long as I'm in the vicinity, I get hit. You see, I can kind of understand how that would make sense in your head, but with no indication from Thor, like a grunt or an animation, it means I'm constantly glancing at my health meter to make sure I have enough health to survive. Also, this giant, he's a dick. Dude, your allies were literally firebombing you with mortars earlier. They were crashing boats into you too. They wanted you dead. But you know who risked his life and limb protecting you? It was me. It was me, Thor, trademark, God of Thunder. Loki, meanwhile, realizes, oh shit, I can't stop Mangog. I'm gonna need my Thunder God of a brother to stop him. And after defeating a much better boss, because he actually has patterns and isn't just some lumbering giant who flails wildly, Loki tells Thor, bruh, you gotta get Scarb right. Because reasons. Also, it's right here when I realize something. The cutscenes are terrible. Barring the fact that Loki's character model looks just awful, especially when compared to Thor's, but notice how all of the dialogue between characters just kinda has them standing around while talking awkwardly and swaying. Like, I know it's minor, but it's just so weird to look at. Like, sure, it's cool they got Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston voicing their respective characters, but it feels like they just didn't have enough time to animate them properly, so what we got left was this. And now we gotta go to Muspelheim to infuse Thor's hammer with Scarbright to make him powerful enough to damage Mangog. And guess what? This level doesn't suck! It's got some cool scenery, it reminds me of Doom. The enemies are challenging, but fun. It has some interesting set pieces, and sure, it's not going to set the world on fire. But I actually found myself mostly enjoying this level. Like, I really felt the game was turning itself around. Okay, sure, the first boss was a bit of a pain at first, but there was some genuine strategy here. I got to utilize the hammer throw targeting system to disrupt his attack, and it felt like this boss was planned. Like, they had a cool idea for a fight with an admittedly awesome looking demon, and they didn't want to mess it up. So, even when it feels like it's bullshit, this can get a pass from me. Oh, and guess what? This is technically the first time Surtur appeared in the MCU. Yeah, years before Thor Ragnarok, we got a look at him, and he looks, well, different here. And if I'm being honest, he looks better in the game. I'm not even joking. Just look at him!
Foolish. The sons of Muspel will ride over your ashes to claim Asgard.
You will die trying.
That is metal, baby! Remember what I said about Doom? Tell me, just tell me you can't imagine Surtur being a boss in Doom. He looks incredible, and I'm actually sad they didn't go with this design for the movie. Oh, and his fight is actually fun, too. It's the right amount of challenging, and I was genuinely enjoying myself fighting against him. I have zero complaints about Surtur as a boss. Thank you for showing up. Gold star. That's set on fire. After Thor defeats Surtur, he infuses his hammer with the power of Scarbright, and now he's ready to take the fight to Magog and undo the damage he's done. Which reminds me... Now, the story, for what it is fine for the most part. But there's one glaring element here, okay? Thor's got an anger problem, and that's an integral part of his character when it comes to the movie. But it doesn't work here. Thor leaps headfirst into action without thinking, and his rash decisions have consequences. Now, while that works in the movie and allows for character development, which requires Thor to undergo a more humanizing process to cool his jets, discover humility, and learn a little bit more about himself and become worthy of being the God of Thunder. That's fine. It allows us to see him at his highs and then at his lows. But in the game, he takes the fight to the Jotuns, which then spirals out of control because of Loki. And he did it because Sif was killed in battle against the Frost Giants. Stupid. On Asgard! Thor, your friend was just murdered by an invading army of magical ice warriors. You were totally justified in being pissed off. It's like this was a last-minute thing they added into the story. Like, the writers knew what they wanted to do with the plot, but they were like, hey, Thor's got an ego in the movie. Include that. Even though it doesn't make sense in this context. But whatever, so I was having fun with that level. And now let's go to the most annoying and worst level in the game. So when Thor arrives back on Asgard, he learns that the Jotuns have returned to attack while Magog is wrecking the place. Sif has been revived, and after being saved by Thor, again, you're tasked with protecting the rest of the city from destruction. Now you see this meter here? That's the city's health meter, and if it drops to 0, you lose. At first, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, so I gotta travel around Asgard to protect it? That's not a bad idea. I mean, Asgard's a pretty cool looking place, so now having it more of a free roamy thing would be really neat. That's awesome. But no! You don't get to do that. You can only go to set parts of it with that hammer swing thing, and the meter starts at half full. The deck has already been stacked against you. It's actually difficult to raise it back up, too. Like, you have to destroy monsters, but only certain ones, and some enemy weapons. And even when you liberate an area of enemies, the bar never moves. Like, I saved this part of the city. Why is it still dropping? And when the meter drops to certain points, Heimdall chimes in to tell you that it's dropping.
Scum is in the balance, Thor. May your mighty rage turn the tide. Overrun. I call on all the powers of Asgard to help us now. Is in the balance, Thor. May your mighty rage turn the tide. Scum is in the balance, Thor. May your mighty rage turn the tide. Scum is in the balance, Thor. May your mighty rage turn the tide. Balance, Thor. May your mighty rage turn the tide. Battle swings in our favor, Thor. Keep pushing them back. Balance, Thor. May your mighty rage turn the tide. Balance, Thor. May your mighty rage turn the tide.
Shut up, Heimdall. No, seriously. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I know it's dropping. I can see it. You don't need to keep reminding me. I get it already. You know, Heimdall isn't actually voiced by Idris Elba in the game. He's actually being voiced by legendary voice actor Phil LaMarr. This game made me tell Phil LaMarr, playing Idris Elba, to shut up. This is a mortal sin, and it shan't be forgiven! Anyway, this level, it sucks. Like, it's bad. It's very bad. Like, it's like the worst level in the game. But thankfully, it's the last level before the final boss. So this brings us to the final battle with Magog. And while the boss fight is, well, it's okay. It's not a terrible way to end the game overall for, you know, what it is. I mean, there's some genuine tension here and there. Some mechanics are fun. Loki gets involved. That's kind of fun. It's not as fun as the Surtur fight, but it's You know, it's alright. It's not worth the build-up, but who's caring at this point? So with the help of Loki and Odin, Thor brings down Magog and saves Asgard. Odin berates Loki for being a douche and releases all the souls trapped within Magog to close out the game. So that's Thor, God of Thunder, and... okay, it's bad. It's bad. Alright? Like, I don't intend on returning to it anytime soon. I'd have to be really, really bored to even think about it. But is it as bad as people say it is? Well, no. I've played worse games, and there are things to like about it. Some of the levels look really good. There are some fun elements here and there. The voice acting is good. The story only has one major hiccup, but it's otherwise serviceable. The combat works well enough on its own, but it's bogged down by other elements. The annoying boss fights, shoddy platforming, nonsensical applications of Thor's powers, limiting your abilities when it's convenient just to make what could otherwise be a good, or at least decent, God of War clone game into an irritating and lackluster time. So I'll give Thor God of Thunder some credit. It's trying. Like, I don't feel like it's shovelware. Like, I don't think this was crapped out in a couple months just to meet a quota, okay? If it was, it's a very impressive time to crap out a game, actually, but it's overall just not really worth your time. Also, there was a version on the Nintendo DS, and since I missed out on the Captain America game on DS, I'll check this one out. But first, here's a quick review of the Captain America DS game. It's stupid, and I don't like it. Okay, Thor, God of Thunder, DS, let's do this. The hell? This game is great! Like, I'm not even kidding. This game is unironically fantastic. As an old-school side-scrolling action platformer, it's probably one of the best I've ever played on the DS. You got some cool combos, the controls are tight, the graphics are charming, there's strategy involved in picking your runes, you have a lot of options to combo your enemies, and all the game's elements are utilized in every fight. This game rocks! Oh, and those boss fights? Dude. Yes. Yes, yes. All the yes. Yes all day. This game is awesome. You should play it. I'm amazed. Like, this is a genuinely good game. Like, it's got its flaws, obviously, but this is a great one. Like, seriously, if you haven't played this one, I sincerely recommend picking it up. It's fantastic, especially for what it is. Seriously, how are you holding that thing? Hey everybody, I want to give a special thank you to all my patrons who make videos like this possible. You guys rock harder than the Thor game on DS. If you wanted to show some support for me too, then check out the Patreon link in the description. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you thought of the video in the comments below. But if you really wanted to help out, then don't forget to give me a like and share the video on your Facebook, Twitter, or MeWe, wherever else you're active. Also, you guys better be grateful that I didn't make a single Hammer Time joke in this video, because that would have been too easy. And I'm above such jokes, okay? It is not Hammer Time. It is time for me to end the video. It's Hammer Time for me to end the video. Dang it!